30 years ago, on the quiet streets of Somerville, Massachusetts, a 17-year-old girl was found dead just steps away from her home. Her name was Deana Cremins, a high school junior with dreams, friends, and a promising future. And on the night of March 29, 1995, everything changed. This is not just a cold case. This is a story wrapped in silence, fear, and a chilling sense that someone out there knows exactly what happened and has never spoken. Deana was last seen alive around 10:30 p.m., walking home from her boyfriend's house. It was just a few blocks, a walk she had taken countless times before. She never made it. The next morning, around 8 a.m., a passerby discovered her body in an alleyway off a narrow path between two apartment buildings on Jock Street. Her body was partially clothed. Her wrists were bound with her own clothing. She had been sexually assaulted and strangled, and left just 100 feet from her front door. Police arrived quickly. The scene was already contaminated. Residents had gathered. Word spread fast. Somerville wasn't used to this kind of violence, and certainly not involving someone like Deana. She was described by teachers as bright, respectful, and full of potential. Her mother, Kathleen Cremins, later said, "She had everything to live for. She was in love. She was looking forward to college. And then someone took her away from us." Deana had spent that night with friends, then with her boyfriend, Tommy LeBlanc. He walked her part of the way home but claimed she wanted to walk the rest alone. Police questioned him first. He was the last known person to see her alive. His account never changed, but it also never satisfied investigators or the public. Somerville PD started digging. Rumors swirled. Witnesses came forward, but none with anything concrete. One neighbor said they heard a scream around 11 p.m. but assumed it was nothing. Another said they saw a man in a dark hoodie walking briskly through the alley minutes after. In the original police report, which we obtained, one line stands out. Victim's body displayed signs of restraint and red ligature marks on neck consistent with manual strangulation. Sexual trauma evident. Location indicates knowledge of area. That last part, knowledge of the area, would become a haunting thread in this case. Deana's murder didn't happen in a remote part of the city. It happened in the heart of a neighborhood. Someone knew that alley. Someone knew the path she took home. This was personal. The list of suspects wasn't long. Police quietly looked into 3 people. One was her boyfriend. The second was a local man with a criminal record who lived nearby. The third has never been publicly named. But we've learned new information that paints a disturbing picture. In 1995, a young man living near the crime scene reportedly had a history of following girls in the neighborhood. His name has never been officially released by law enforcement, but multiple residents remember seeing him outside late at night, sometimes watching from alleys, sometimes standing under streetlights, unmoving. Some found it creepy. Some ignored it. But after Deana's murder, they remembered. One neighbor, whose identity we're protecting, gave this recorded statement in 1995. "I saw him there. I'll never forget it. Standing by the back gate. Smoking. Watching. I didn't think anything of it. Until I heard what happened. And then I thought, what if it was him?" Police brought that man in for questioning. But without physical evidence, he walked. No charges were filed. And just like that, the lead vanished. Forensics at the time were limited. DNA was collected, but no match was found. It sat in storage for years. In 2005, the case was reopened. DNA was retested using new methods. Still no match. We spoke with retired Somerville detective Marcus Bennett, who worked the case in the late 90s. His words stuck with us. "We were close. We had the neighborhood locked down. But the guy who did this, he slipped through. Maybe he blended in. Maybe he knew how not to leave a trace. Or maybe he had help." Help. That word isn't often used in solo sexual homicide cases. But some investigators began to wonder, was it possible that Deana's killer wasn't alone? A 2001 tip suggested that a small group of young men may have been involved in the assault. But without corroboration, the tip led nowhere. Polygraph tests were administered. 2 individuals reportedly failed, but again, no charges. Police couldn't prove they were even at the scene. Deana's mother never stopped fighting. Year after year, she put up posters, held candlelight vigils, and spoke to anyone who would listen. "Someone in this town knows," she told a local paper in 2010. "They've been protecting a murderer for 15 years. It's time to stop." Then something changed. In 2015, 20 years after the murder, a sealed court document was quietly leaked. It contained excerpts from a police interview with a man whose name we won't release. But the transcript is chilling. Transcript: Somerville PD, July 19, 1995. DT: K. Jameson. "You said you walked by the alley around 10:45? Subject: Yeah, I was going to my cousin's. DT: K. Jameson. "And you didn't see anyone? Subject: Just a girl. I think it was her. Blonde. She was walking fast. DT: K. Jameson. "Did she speak? Subject: No. She looked scared though. Like she knew something. E. K. Jameson. Like she knew what? Subject: Like someone was behind her. DT: K. Jameson. "Did you see someone behind her? Subject: I'm not sure. I didn't want to get involved. DT: K. Jameson. "Did you know Deana? Subject: I knew of her. DT: K. Jameson. "Did you ever talk to her? Subject: Once. At a party. The subject refused a DNA test. He lawyered up. And that was it. No charges. No follow-up. Another lead frozen in time. Deana's case grew colder. Public attention faded. But the Cremins family never stopped pushing. In 2017, the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab issued a request to retest all biological samples in unsolved cold cases using cutting-edge familial DNA tracing. For the first time in decades, the case file moved forward. Partial DNA match was discovered. It wasn't a direct match, but it pointed to someone related to a man living in the Somerville area in the mid-90s. The person of interest was deceased. The state wouldn't release a name, but Kathleen Cremins hinted to the press. "It confirms what we knew. He was in our lives. He knew our daughter." Then came the twist. In early 2023, a man in New Hampshire was arrested for an unrelated sexual assault from 1998. His DNA entered Cody's. A red flag went up. The match wasn't complete, but it was close. A cousin of the suspect had once dated Deana Cremins. He was interviewed. The details of that interview are sealed. But 2 months later, the investigation was re-evaluated. The lead detective retired abruptly, and then silence. That brings us to today, 30 years since Deana's murder. No arrest, no justice, but still no peace. One final piece of evidence has never been made public. Until now, we've obtained a photo taken by a Somerville firefighter who was first on scene. It shows the alley, but what's startling is what's in the far right of the frame. A figure, blurred, partially obscured by a car, wearing a dark hoodie, standing, watching. The photo was timestamped at 8:03 a.m. The crowd hadn't gathered yet. Police hadn't taped off the area, and no one can identify the person in that image. We showed the photo to a former investigator. He responded with one word: chilling. Could this be the killer? Could this be someone who came back to watch? Or was it a guilty conscience pulling them to the scene? We don't know, and that's what makes this story endure. For every answer we get, there are more questions. Why was Deana killed just steps from home? Why was her body left in such a specific way? Who knew her route? And why hasn't anyone talked? There's a code of silence in Somerville. Some say it's fear. Some say it's loyalty. But someone knows. Someone saw. And as long as that silence holds, Deana's killer walks free. This is not the end of Deana Cremins' story, because something new is surfacing. A sealed affidavit, a potential witness, and a name we weren't supposed to find. Soon in this part, we'll reveal what we discovered. A second suspect, an unexplored alibi, and a phone call made at 11:08 p.m. the night Deana was killed. A call traced to an address just 3 blocks away. The call was never investigated. Until now. Stay with us and subscribe to this channel. The truth is closer than ever, and someone is about to break their silence. Previously, we told you the story of 17-year-old Deana Cremins, found murdered just steps from her home in Somerville, Massachusetts, on March 30, 1995. A walk she had made countless times before turned fatal. Her body, partially clothed, bound with her own clothing, and left in an alley behind Jacques Street, was discovered the following morning. Police questioned her boyfriend. They followed leads. But for 30 years, the case has remained unsolved. Until now. Because what wasn't known, what was never made public, is that on the night of her murder, at exactly 11:08 p.m., a call was made from a nearby home phone to an unlisted number. That call lasted exactly 67 seconds. It was never followed up. The address? 219 Summer Street, just 3 blocks from the alley where Deana's body was found. And the man who lived at that address? He was never questioned. Not once. So why was that call ignored? To answer that, we need to go back to 1995, to a time when cell phones weren't common, and calls made from home phones were logged manually. We've obtained internal logs from the local phone exchange. They show a call originating from 219 Summer Street to a landline in Revere, an unlisted number that belonged to a woman named Carla F. Carla was the aunt of a man named Anthony Palumbo. Anthony was 22 at the time, a construction worker, known to police for minor offenses, vandalism, trespassing, nothing serious. He lived at 219 Summer Street with his grandmother. And according to neighbors, we now know he was obsessed with Deana. We interviewed a former classmate of Deana's, under the condition of anonymity. She told us, Tony used to hang around after school. He didn't go to our school, he was older, but he'd wait near the convenience store on Broadway. One time he asked if Deana was seeing anyone. I told him yeah, she was with Tommy, and he got real quiet. Like, weird quiet. What's more disturbing, Deana reportedly told a friend, just days before her death, that a man she didn't know well had made her uncomfortable. He had shown up near her bus stop, twice, just watching. She never said his name, but she mentioned that he wore work boots and had paint on his pants. That matches the description of Anthony Palumbo. So why didn't police follow this? According to an internal memo from Somerville PD, obtained through a FOIA request, officers were instructed to focus interviews on individuals with a known history with the victim. Palumbo technically didn't qualify. There was no formal connection, but there might have been something else. We've spoken to a retired city employee who worked in administration in the 90s. He claims that Anthony's uncle was a patrol officer in Somerville. Off the books, quiet influence, and that may have been enough to keep his name out of the early investigation. But we kept digging. In 2009, a cold case unit briefly reopened Deana's file. They requested DNA retesting. Partial matches came up, but again, no hits in Cody's. However, in 2016, a private lab ran an additional analysis using touch DNA from the clothing used to bind Deana's wrists, and it yielded a familiar profile. Not a match, but a familial link to the Palumbo family. We confirmed this with a retired forensic technician who worked the case. He told us, it wasn't strong enough for charges, but it narrowed things. That DNA came from someone closely related to Anthony, a cousin, a sibling, or Anthony himself. Still no arrest. Why? Because the sample was degraded. Chain of custody was in question. And most critically, the district attorney's office wasn't confident in securing a conviction, so the case went quiet. Again. Until January 2024. That's when an anonymous letter was sent to the Middlesex District Attorney's office. It was unsigned. No return address. Just 5 sentences, written in shaky handwriting. He told me what he did. Said he never meant to kill her. Just scare her. Said she screamed too loud. I never forgot. I can't carry it anymore. The envelope contained a photo. A school photo of Deana Cremins. On the back, 2 words. I'm sorry. Forensics traced the envelope to a postal box in Cambridge. No fingerprints, no surveillance footage. But the letter reignited the investigation. Detectives began quietly re-interviewing old witnesses, including a woman named Leah Weston. Leah lived on Jock Street in 1995. She was 21 at the time. She babysat for a neighbor next door to the alley. In a never-before-heard audio interview from June 2024, Leah gave the following statement. "I remember it because it was trash night, and the bags were out. I went to take something to the curb, and I saw this guy walking fast. Not running, just fast. Boots, hoodie, kind of hunched. He looked over at me, but kept moving, like he was trying not to be seen." She was shown the recently resurfaced photo, the one with the blurred figure near the alley. She pointed at it and said, without hesitation, "That's him." Then another twist. We were contacted by a former coworker of Anthony Palumbo. He asked to be identified only as M. He told us, "In '97 I worked with him on a drywall crew. One day we were driving to a job in Quincy. The radio was playing something about a missing girl. And Tony turns to me and goes, 'They still talk about that one in Somerville. I used to see her walk by every day. Shame.' Then he just smiled. Like creepy. I didn't think anything of it then. But now, it makes my skin crawl. M never told police. Until now. The most chilling revelation came just weeks ago, in April 2025. A woman came forward. Her name is being withheld for safety. She once dated a relative of Anthony Palumbo. She claims that in 1999, during a family gathering, Anthony was drunk and made a comment she's never forgotten. He said, "Everyone thinks it was the boyfriend, but she passed me every damn day. I didn't need to follow her. I just waited." Then he laughed. No one else reacted. I felt like I was the only one who heard it. She left that night shaken. She never went back. That brings us to the present. We submitted all our findings to an independent criminologist, Dr. Raphael Vanetti. His conclusion: this case fits the profile of a predatory attack. The victim was stalked, selected, and targeted. The lack of forensic evidence indicates planning. And the proximity to the victim's route home suggests the killer knew her pattern. This was no random act. So what happens now? The Middlesex DA has acknowledged new leads, but they won't confirm if Anthony Palumbo is under investigation. We reached out to him. He declined to comment. But there's one more piece of the puzzle. The unlisted number that received the 11:08 p.m. call in Revere? That number was reactivated in 2018 to a prepaid cell phone, and in 2024 it was used to make one call to a burner phone in Everett. The call lasted 4 seconds. No one knows who answered or what was said, but the timing is eerie, because that call was made the same day the anonymous letter was received. Someone's nervous, someone's watching, someone still has something to hide, and we believe they may be getting ready to run. Soon in this part, we'll investigate the current location of Anthony Palumbo. We'll examine the psychological profile of long-term offenders, and we'll reveal a voice message left on a tip line in 1998 that was recently recovered. The voice is male. It's distorted, but it says 6 words. She was supposed to walk alone. Was that a confession? Was that a warning? Or was it the voice of a killer who's never been far from the scene? The truth is close, closer than it's ever been. And the next move might be his. Stay with us and subscribe to this channel. This isn't over. Previously, we uncovered chilling new evidence in the 1995 unsolved murder of Deana Cremins. A mysterious call at 11:08 p.m. the night she died. A photo of her mailed anonymously in 2024. A whisper of obsession from a man named Anthony Palumbo. And a voice recorded decades ago finally heard. We are going deeper, because what began as a tragic cold case is no longer just a mystery. It's a pressure point, and it's starting to crack. Let's go back again to the morning Deana was found. March 30th, 1995. Officer Carla Mendoza, one of the first on scene, filed a handwritten supplement to her official report. We've obtained a copy. It reads, Victim's right shoe missing. Looked as if dragged. No signs of a struggle in alley. Odd. Alley was unusually clean. No trash. No glass. No debris. Like someone cleared it. That detail was never made public. But it matches a 1996 witness statement from a sanitation worker, Ronald B. He stated under oath that trash pickup on Jacques Street had been canceled that week due to a union issue. So why was the alley clean? And who cleared it? We consulted crime scene analyst Dana Levesque, retired FBI. She told us, perpetrators sometimes manipulate scenes post-crime to remove trace evidence. But the level of tidiness here suggests premeditation, possibly staged in advance. Now pair that with what we learned in Part 2. The suspect, Anthony Palumbo, lived just 3 blocks from the scene. A man with no official connection to Deana, but who, multiple witnesses now say, was fixated on her. We've learned that in the fall of 1994, 6 months before Deana's death, Anthony was briefly employed by a contractor doing work at Deana's high school. 1 week, painting and tiling, placed him in the building. He would have seen her, could have heard her name, known her schedule. We filed a public records request with the school district, and we found his name, buried in a temporary labor roster from October 3rd to 10th. That connection had never been investigated. Until now. We spoke to someone who knew Anthony during that period. A former coworker, Joe Martin. He told us, Tony would get quiet when schoolgirls passed by. Like just, still. I thought he was shy or something. One time, he said, "You ever see someone you know you're supposed to have?" I didn't get it. But now, it gives me chills. Then came the voicemail. Recovered just weeks ago from an old tape archive at a now-defunct Boston tip line. The message was dated April 2nd, 1998. Here is a transcript. Voicemail, male, distorted. "It wasn't supposed to happen that way," she screamed. She wasn't alone. He wasn't supposed to be there. She was supposed to walk alone. The voice low, rasping, intentionally slowed. The tape was never analyzed until now. We sent it to a forensic audio lab in Oregon. Their conclusion? The distortion was analog, likely recorded on a cassette, then replayed at a slower speed. But they isolated breath patterns, speech rhythm, and found a 76% match to a known speaking sample of Anthony Palumbo taken during a 1997 deposition unrelated to the case. That's not enough for a conviction, but it's enough to ask, why hasn't he been questioned? And where is he now? According to publicly available property records, Anthony sold his Somerville home in 2020. He moved briefly to Nashua, New Hampshire. Then, in 2022, he vanished from state records. No driver's license renewal. No voter registration. No tax records. But we found him, under a new name, in a quiet corner of western Pennsylvania, working under the table in a scrapyard, living in a trailer on the edge of town. We sent an undercover source, posing as a local contractor, to speak with him. They engaged him in casual conversation. When Deana's name was mentioned, he froze, said nothing, walked away. Then later that night he disappeared. Trailer vacated. No forwarding address. But that's not where this ends. Because days after his disappearance, a second anonymous letter was sent to the same post office box in Cambridge. It read, "I told you, you should have left it buried. This doesn't bring her back. It just brings more bodies." That letter contained no fingerprints, but it was typed on a 1990s IBM wheelwriter. And under the ribbon, faintly, was one line that never made it to the final page. "They think it's just me." What does that mean? Was there more than one person involved? Was Anthony covering for someone? Or was he forced into silence? We asked former Detective Marcus Bell, who worked a similar case in 2003. He told us, "When you see a suspect vanish after years of silence, that usually means someone rattled the cage. Either they feel heat, or they're being hunted." So now we're asking, who else knew? Was someone helping him? Could there be another suspect? And most importantly, did Deana know she was being watched? There's one more detail. In her final week, Deana had reportedly started journaling. A close friend, Grace Grant, remembers seeing her writing in the school library. But no journal was ever recovered from her belongings. Gone. Never found. Until 3 weeks ago. A Somerville resident doing renovations in an old duplex discovered a plastic bag wedged behind a radiator. Inside, water-damaged pages. A spiral notebook. It's been authenticated. It belonged to Deana Cremins. And in one of the final entries, dated March 26, 1995, she wrote, "He was there again, at the fence. Didn't move, just stared. I told Tommy, but he doesn't believe me. I'm not imagining this. I know that face now. I just don't know his name." Deana knew something. She felt the presence. And now, nearly 30 years later, we might finally be standing on the threshold of truth. But here's the twist. The notebook also included a drawing. A map, not of her neighborhood, but of a route through a wooded area near 10 Hills. A path that would have taken her off her normal route home. It was marked, "If I need to disappear." Did she plan to avoid someone? Was she being followed? Or did she see something she wasn't supposed to? And one final mystery. In the notebook, at the very end, a single word written over and over, covering the back cover in black pen. Alone. 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 Was that fear? A warning? Or a message? In Part 2, we investigate that alternate route. We speak to a surviving family member who believes Deana confided something disturbing in her final days. And we reveal the hidden link between Anthony Palumbo and another unsolved case from 1992. The story is unraveling, and someone somewhere is running out of time, because justice doesn't sleep, and silence doesn't last forever. Stay with us and subscribe to this channel. This is far from over.